اقعد يا سيدي. هذا الناس هذا الناس. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of
معالي
God the
السيد
Almighty,
حقان فيدان
Mr. Hakan
وزير
Fidan, the
خارجية
Turkish
جمهورية تركيا.
Foreign Minister,
السيدات والسادة،
ladies and gentlemen,
يسعدني
I'm very
أن
happy
أرحب اليوم
to welcome my dear friend, the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, in Alamein city, and I am happy to also welcome his Turkish delegation that is accompanying him and express my great gratitude to the talks and discussions that we had today that reflected what brings these two friendly nations together with regards to mutual agreements and bilateral ties and regional and international ties that concern the two countries. As you know, the Foreign Minister, Mr. Hakan, had a meeting with His Excellency President Abdelatty al-Sisi, and their meeting was very important and was quite a long meeting, which discussed several issues related to bilateral ties between Egypt and Turkey, as well as other political issues, economic and trade issues, as well as cultural exchange issues, as well as educational issues, as well as discussions related to several regional issues and developments and crises that we are witnessing in the area. The Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan also heard President Abdelatty al-Sisi's visions and opinions around these issues, and there was agreement and deals on how to deal with these crises in the region. No doubt this visit of the Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan comes at a critical time, a very important time, as it coincides with our celebrations of 100 years of diplomatic ties between Egypt and Turkey, a great history between the two nations. And these ties reflect the diplomatic ties between the two countries, and also reflects the importance, obviously, and depth of these ties, and the awareness of the two countries on the need to continue coordination and work hand in hand to continue bilateral development. And most importantly, with regards to our bilateral ties, is the development of the Strategic Partnership Committee, recently headed by His Excellency President Abdelatty al-Sisi, and the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, which was inaugurated in the historic visit by President Abdelatty al-Sisi to the Turkish capital Ankara in September last year. Ladies and gentlemen, the ties between Egypt and Turkey are witnessing a great period of time and strategic development, as well as partnership and collaboration in order to benefit the two countries as well as the region as a whole, in order to achieve development regionally and for the two countries and the two friendly peoples, and also to establish security and stability in this region, which is facing several crises. And surely all the collaboration and cooperation and partnership between the two countries is to support security and stability in this region, as we believe transparency is the best key to true partnership, and true political will is capable of opening more and more arenas for development and partnership. I met today with my dear friend Hakan Fidan, and we discussed several issues. We discussed bilateral relations and the will to continue and further deepen and develop our ties, and have a committee meeting between the strategic partners in order to prepare for the next meeting for our strategic partnership committees that will be held next year. And we are hoping another visit by the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan next year, God willing, in order to launch the second round of this committee. Also, we have agreed on the need to further bilateral trade exchange and economic development between the two countries, as was agreed upon last September between the two presidents, the need to double the trade exchange between the two countries to $15 billion in the next few years. And this aim is not difficult to reach, but with the willpower of the two countries, we can definitely reach this goal soon. And I also confirmed our stance and welcoming of Turkish investors in different areas and sectors in Egypt, and the Egyptian government's support to these companies and concern with them, and to remove any obstacles faced by these investment companies in Egypt. And we are very happy with these Turkish investments and the increase of these Turkish investors in Egypt over the last period of time. We also discussed cooperation in different sectors, for example, the energy field, transportation, educational sector, cultural sector. And I also thanked the Turkish Foreign Minister for the Turkish support of our Egyptian and Islamic Dr. Khaled El-Anani for the position of the UNESCO SecGen. And also we discussed collaboration in different fields that will benefit the two countries. Definitely, as you know, we also discussed the regional issues, and as you know, it is difficult to go into many details related to the regional issues, but this was already done, and a great discussion was held between the Foreign Minister of Turkey and President Abdelatty al-Sisi that discussed the regional issues in depth. And also, we must keep in mind the dangerous escalation that we're seeing in the region, and of course what is happening in the Palestinian territories, the occupied Palestinian territories, whether in the West Bank or the Gaza Strip. This humanitarian crisis in Gaza has taken a great part of our discussions, and the Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan was enlightened with regards to the efforts played by Egypt with regards to reaching a ceasefire permanently, as well as dealing with the humanitarian aid crisis which Israel has caused as a result of its irresponsible genocide war against the Palestinian people. And obviously we discussed the decision of the Israeli cabinet recently to further increase their control over the Gaza Strip and continue their military escalations in the region, and we totally agreed that this is unacceptable, and we have denounced the Israeli government's plan, and we confirmed the need to further collaborate and work together in order to fight this decision as well as a call on regional pressure and international pressure in order to stop this plan. We also talked about the different ways of ending the humanitarian suffering, the starvation and the genocide war against the Palestinian people that Israel is carrying out, and how to stop this, and how Israel must allow the passing of humanitarian aid and open their borders and border crossings in order to allow aid into Gaza, as they are the occupation power and they have the responsibility of making aid reach the people that are in dire need of it. Also, we confirmed we welcome any support from Turkey or from any other country all around the world which will allow humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, alongside the Egyptian great efforts in this regard, to allow all the ease of passing through the Arish border or any border crossing, and further pressurize the Israeli occupation power to remove the obstacles and open their side of the borders to allow aid into the Gaza Strip. We also discussed the unified Egyptian and Turkish position that is supporting the Palestinian people and their right to sovereignty and their independent state, with East Jerusalem as its capital according to the borders of 1967. Also, we have condemned all the non-humanitarian practices against the Palestinians that we are seeing, the settlements being built on Palestinian land and in the West Bank, all the attacks and how the destruction that is ongoing in that area, as well as the relocation of the Palestinian citizens from these areas. This is a red line that will never be accepted under any circumstances by Egypt. And surely this plan is being done in order to dissolve the Palestinian cause. And we are working to stop this and fight this, obviously. We also discussed the need to respect all religious institutes and buildings, whether Islamic or Christian, in the occupied Jerusalem. I also spoke to my friend, Foreign Minister Fidan, about several regional other issues, for example, the situation in Syria. And I would like to confirm our agreement on the need to preserve the peace and security and sovereignty of Syrian land, and to reach political resolution that is fair, as well as satisfies the Syrian people's aspirations, keeping their security and safety and the security of their lands, keeping away any terror and terrorism from Syrian lands. And of course, any attacks by the Israelis on the Syrian lands have been totally rejected by us, and we have confirmed the need to stop these practices, these unlawful practices and irresponsible practices by the Israelis. Also, the situation in Libya was discussed, and we confirmed the need to work towards reaching peace and security, as well as political resolutions in Libya. And we discussed the need to unify Libyan institutions, to keep Libya unified and allow Libyan institutions to do their actual role in the Libyan nation, and the need to stop any divisions between the Libyan sides, and the need to have presidential and parliamentary elections as soon as possible in Libya, and the withdrawal of any foreign forces in Libya and mercenaries that are in the country, which will result in security and stability for Libya as well. Also, we discussed the developments in Sudan and the situation in Sudan, which is very, very important for us in Egypt, especially they are our neighbors, and also for Turkey it's very important, the situation in Sudan, and we've discussed the need to reach a ceasefire in Sudan and prevent further escalation in order to reach a political, peaceful solution in order to preserve the Sudanese nation and unity and stop the hardships being faced by the Sudanese people. I also spoke to the Foreign Minister Hakan on the Egyptian efforts in preserving Sudanese lands. Also, we discussed other regional issues, and obviously in Lebanon as well, and we further confirmed the need to reach another ceasefire and stop this Israeli aggression on the 5 areas in southern Lebanon, and the need to fully comply of the UN Security Council Resolution 701, which says that the Israeli forces must fully withdraw from Lebanese land and territory that have been occupied. Also, we discussed in depth the situation in the Horn of Africa, and I spoke to the Turkish Foreign Minister on the very important issue of the water situation and the Horn of Africa and Somalia, and the need to continue preserving Somalese lands and protect Somalia from division and to stop foreign forces from intervening in Somalia, as well as the situation in Yemen and the waterway freedom of transportation in the Red Sea and the situation in Yemen as well, and the need to fully respect the unity of all these lands and the sovereignty of all our neighboring countries, which is a very important international law as respected by the African Union. Also, we discussed other regional topics, the need to support cooperation between Egypt and Turkey in joint partnerships in order to assist African nations and African peoples. Also, international issues of mutual concern were discussed, for example, the economic situation as a result of the Ukrainian crisis on developing countries, as well as food security issues and how they have been negatively affected as a result of the Ukrainian crisis and the Ukrainian war, as well as energy supplies that have been affected by this crisis. We obviously support all efforts in order to reach a political, peaceful solution to the Ukrainian crisis, as we both agreed on the need to reach peaceful resolutions to all the conflicts that are being witnessed all around the world and move away from military attacks. Also, to conclude, our discussions today showed our unified stance with regards to regional issues as well as international issues, and this has shown the need to further collaborate and coordinate our stances. Once again, I would like to welcome the Foreign Minister of Turkey, Hakan Fidan, and confirm our need to continue our political collaboration, as this will also open further windowways and doorways for further collaboration between the two countries and the two friendly peoples in economic and trade sectors, as well as allow for security and stability to prevail in our region during this critical time where we are seeing now in history. Thank you very much. And now, my dear friend Fidan, you have the floor. Thank you, my dear friend. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, our region is going through a critical period in time. And during my visit, I would like to thank my counterpart, Mr. Badr Abdelatty, for his reception and hospitality. We have seen his great and dear friendship. Today, my visit, I started it with a reception by President Abdelatty al-Sisi, and this was a long visit. Mr. President al-Sisi discussed several issues related to the region, as well as bilateral ties between Egypt and Turkey, as well as ties between President al-Sisi and the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And according to their leadership, the two countries, Egypt and Turkey, have come a long way in their ties and relationship, which has been unprecedented. With regards to bilateral ties alone, with regards to technological advancements and trade ties, lots of sectors have seen great development that is unprecedented. Also, we are seeing a great agreement when it comes to regional issues and conflicts in the region, and I would like to thank our two leaders in this regard. My dear friend and counterpart, in 2025 we are celebrating 100 years of diplomatic ties between Egypt and Turkey, and we are hoping for a continued ties and development of these ties and development of our ties over the next few years, and through the partnership committee, the strategic partnership committee that has been established. And we discussed today the preparations with regards to the second meeting of this committee. Our relationship with Egypt in the trade sector are ongoing. Trade exchange between the two countries has been $9 billion from 2024, and we are hoping to reach $15 billion, and the Turkish companies are working towards this as they are investing in Egypt and providing job opportunities in several sectors, and we will continue to do so, especially in the energy sector and military production. The infrastructural projects that have been done in Egypt have transformed Egypt to an investment hub, and we congratulate Egypt in this regard, as we are seeing Egypt reaching more heights of development. With regards to our bilateral ties, we discussed the situation in Gaza, and we discussed the need to reach a ceasefire, as well as the continued delivering of humanitarian aid sustainably being delivered. And we always discuss these issues with Egypt, between Egypt as well as Qatar and the United States, and we are very grateful to these collaborations. However, in light, unfortunately, we are seeing Israel is continuously withdrawing from the ceasefire talks, and we're seeing the attacks by the Israelis and the aggression and occupation of the Israelis, which is being witnessed by the world. And this is being seen by the world, and there must be a unified stance by the international community. The Palestinian issue has become the most important conflict in the world, and the Western countries are aware of this, and their peoples are now aware of this. Today, no one wants to have the sole responsibility of supporting Israel, and we've seen the increase of the number of nations that have recognized Palestine as an independent state. And in light of this, the truth is, as we are collaborating with Palestinian leaders, my dear friend, Mr. Abdelatty, and we will continue working together to reach a ceasefire for the Palestinian people. And we've seen now the Israeli occupation's plan in fully invading the Gaza Strip, and we totally reject this. And of course, we totally reject this. We are seeing the humanitarian crisis, and we have to stop, as the international community and Islamic nations, we have to stop this. And as a result of me being the Islamic Council's head, I'm now calling for a meeting as well by the Islamic Council to discuss the recent escalation. I'm saying this very clearly: Palestine is for the Palestinians, and all attempts to remove the Palestinian people of their land is rejected and will fail. Turkey and Egypt will continue to stand against these practices. The need to have sustainable humanitarian aid reaching the Palestinians is very important. We need to continue sending this aid sustainably, and Egypt has played a great role in this regard. I would like to thank Egypt for their great efforts and collaboration in this regard and the role they have played. And we are totally aware that the Egyptian role is central in assisting the Palestinians and decreasing the humanitarian dire circumstances and getting sustainable deliveries of humanitarian aid and food to the Palestinians. Egypt, as you know, is our neighbor in the Mediterranean, and today we are meeting in Alamein city, which is on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, and we are totally aware of the meaning and significance of this. We want to see stability and security in the Middle East and the protection of human rights and according to international laws. Also in Libya, we are working towards reaching unification and stability in Libya, as well as Sudan and Somalia. We also discussed these issues related to these countries, and we were very happy to see that our stances are unified and our points of view are one. With regards to several countries in the region, for example, Libya, and we hope that our Libyan brothers reach a resolution, as well as in Sudan. We hope, and we have a unified hope, that the situation in Sudan calms down and peace and stability is reached. And in Turkey, we always stand for the unification of Sudanese land and Sudanese people and the stopping of the bloodshed in Sudan. We have to reach a diplomatic and political resolution in this country. As we've seen in Gaza and Palestine, Israel is not just to occupy Gaza, but there are other greater different plans for Lebanon and Syria to create chaos and crises in these lands and to further occupy them. We discussed as well our unified vision with regards to the Israeli plan. And in light of this, what can we do? What can we do to prevent this Israeli plan from seeing the light, as this is a great destabilizing threat in the region and internationally? I would like to thank my dear friend, the Foreign Minister Abdelatty, and his reception. And Egypt and Turkey will continue to work towards stability in the region, and we will continue collaboration and consultation in this regard. And I hope our meeting today will continue to open new doorways for further collaboration between the two countries. Thank you very much, my dear friend. I have a question for His Excellency, the Foreign Minister Badr Abdelatty, with regards to this Israeli escalation in the region and the full occupation of Gaza, which is against all international laws. Has there been any Egyptian-Turkish move in order to condemn this decision? And what happens if these Israeli plans continue in order to remove the Palestinians and relocate them from their lands? Thank you. Thank you very much. We have clearly said several times over and over that we condemn and fully condemn the Israeli plans and reject the Israeli plan to fully occupy the Gaza Strip, which boosts the Israeli illegal occupation to the Palestinian territories. We are discussing with Turkey the Palestinian issue, of course, and the situation in the Gaza Strip, and we are constantly discussing with other countries as well and international nations. And we just agreed, as a result of the seven-member committee, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Indonesia, Nigeria, and of course with Jordan as well, and the need to have a communique on behalf of these 7 countries. The Egyptian Islamic Joint Committee, and yesterday we also discussed with my brother Amir Faisal bin Farhan and my dear friend Hakan Fidan and several foreign ministers from this 7-nation committee, and we discussed the need to have a communique released that will discuss the full condemnation of this Israeli plan. And this is one of the steps and collaboration with the Turkish side. Another issue is our support and participation of the emergency meeting of the Islamic collaboration as a result of the Israeli plan, and confirm our full rejection and condemnation of this illegal Israeli move. Also, the Arab League has had an emergency meeting, and I also discussed with our discussions yesterday with the Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan the need to work with other Arab and Islamic nations in the Security Council to have an emergency session as soon as possible in order to discuss this great and dire escalation with our brothers as well in Somalia and Algeria and Pakistan. We are in constant communication with all our brotherly nations, including Pakistan, because what is being witnessed today is extremely dangerous, and we can never be silent. And this is not just about the Palestinian people, but or even neighboring countries or the Gaza Strip, but this concerns the Arab world, the Islamic world, and the whole of humanity, because this is a crime against international laws, and we have spoken about this, and this is a red line for Egypt and Jordan and all the countries really in the region, and it will not be accepted or tolerated, and it will not be allowed. And we are more than capable of collaborating together and unifying our stance with our brothers in the Arab League as well as the Islamic Conference in order to reach one stance to fight these irresponsible actions and Israeli plans that reflect really a great dire escalation that cannot be allowed. Another question? My question is for the Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. Sir, the decisions by the Israeli cabinet are very worrying, and the situation of the humanitarian crisis and famine in the Gaza Strip is expected to increase. What can be done, and what collaboration and coordination between Egypt and Turkey can this lead the way in further ties between the countries? Just earlier, the Foreign Minister Abdelatty was asked a similar question, and we will continue, as he said, working towards reaching a resolution in the Palestinian cause. As you know, we've been working towards this from the beginning. The need to have sustainable delivery of humanitarian aid, and we are seeing a great collaboration in this regard between Egypt and Turkey, and this is very important, especially the use of the Arish border crossing. The situation, the Egyptian efforts in this regard have been clear. However, this genocide war against the Palestinians by the Israelis is now reaching a new level, and Israel is impeding the delivery of humanitarian aid and food to the Israelis, which is resulting in their starvation and an increase in this genocide war against the Palestinians. Israel knows that its plan is to remove all the Palestinians from Gaza and put their settlers instead. And from our side, as this genocide war continues and starvation continues, and we know that the Israelis are pressuring other countries and nations to accept the Palestinians onto their lands, and we know these countries have refused to do so. And the international community has been made aware of this. And unfortunately, the international community has shown its ignorance in this regard. And of course, this will only result in worsening of the situation in the region. This breaking of all international laws, especially during this critical time, what is happening on the Palestinian lands is no longer a regional issue or a Muslim issue or a Palestinian issue. It is now an international crisis. We are seeing the bloodshed of children, women, and martyrs in Gaza. And if this does not change very soon, this will further worsen the situation all over the world, and the innocent martyrs will result in uprisings in different countries all around the world. Israel has become an occupation power which has now been exposed to the whole world. These martyrs have shown the whole world the real truth of the Israeli occupation. However, it has cost thousands of innocent lives, women and children that have been martyred. Our continuous fight against this will continue, and we will never stop and never give up. We will never ever allow this to continue forever. The aggressors must be brought to justice. Netanyahu as well. These children that he has starved and killed, the gunshots that have killed the innocent people, their blood will never be forgotten. We will continue to get our unified stances in this regard. We have a lot of work to do, and we have to show the whole world how they must be unified in this regard in order to speak up against this inhumane action, and they must be made aware that we will not be accepting of this. Everyone must do what they can. Today is the time to do this. My question for the Foreign Minister, Dr. Abdelatty. Today you spoke about a very important issue, which is the Israeli plan will not just stop in Gaza, but will also expand to other areas. Do you have a vision or an Egyptian vision that can be taken on by the Arab nations as a whole in order to face this together? Of course, there are lots of discussions between Egypt and all the Arab countries, and this, of course, will be discussed in the Arab League's next Foreign Ministers meeting. This is a very important issue. It will also be discussed with all the regional players and countries like Turkey and all the other countries in the region. We can never allow this Israeli plan to fully occupy the region in Gaza, or to restructure the whole Arab region as a whole. This will never be allowed. And of course, any regional issues concerning all these countries must be discussed, and we have to have a unified stance which must be respected, and no other country will ever support this. Of course, we have great insights, for example, the sovereignty and the right of states to their sovereignty, and the non-interference, and we can never allow this interference in other nations under any circumstances. The sovereignty of nations, the unification and stability of these nations, the international laws, these are all very, very important issues. and we all have to agree upon these things, to respect international law. We can never, ever, ever discuss any other regional issues without unifying our stance in international laws, and this is a very important issue which is highlighted any preparations in the Middle East or even the African continent as a whole. Also, political, peaceful resolutions to conflicts and wars. There are no military resolutions that will ever be agreed upon. As soon as we all agree that military resolutions are not acceptable, we have to discuss this. We are able, as regional countries and Arab nations and in the region, to definitely agree on these principles, and we will not allow any single nation to dominate the region and all the countries, and this is a very important issue. And these preparations, as I said, must align with all these principles that I have mentioned. And these are obvious. If we're going to talk about stability and security and regional stability and security, we have to respect these principles. We can never discuss them unless these principles are respected and followed. We cannot allow one party to intervene or break any of these principles just because they have military power and dominate and interfere here or there under false pretenses, and they will never be supported by the international law or by the United Nations or by any countries, even if they're claiming of their right to protect themselves. And of course, I believe that there's an agreement between the main countries in the region with regards to this issue and these principles that must be the guiding force with regards to any preparations or agreements. We never allow the dominance of one party over another.
Jan Sudan, TRTV.
جان سودان من تاغتابر. تعلمون أذربيجان وأرمينيا.
You know that Azerbaijan and Armenia, in an agreement between them in 2000, on the 9th agreement between the two. How do you see this? Yesterday, according to Washington time, noon, and in the evening in Egypt, an agreement was signed and reached between Azerbaijan and Armenia. We signed a US brokered peace agreement. We know that the Nagorno-Karabakh region from the 1980s, which was populated by ethnic Armenians, broke away from Azerbaijan with the support of Armenia. And we know there was a need to reach a peace agreement after long negotiations between the two countries. Yesterday, a US brokered peace agreement was reached. We are hoping that this agreement holds, and just a few issues that need to be ironed out are done so, especially with regards to this brokered peace agreement, which is very important that it has been reached now, especially with all the conflicts and crises that are being seen all around the world. We always support this according to our president's vision. We have supported Azerbaijan and supported them in getting full control of their lands. And we are very happy with this agreement. And we also appreciate the US brokered peace deal. The Zingzhou pathway is the only issue that needs to be further ironed out and agreed upon, and hopefully the details will be dealt with as soon as possible. I also met with several officials in this regard, and of course we are very happy with this agreement, and we discussed the pathway issue, and here we have a unified vision and strategy in order to revive this issue from Europe to Asia, to allow the revival of this pathway of Zingzhou, which will be very important for this. And this, of course, will be beneficial for Turkey and its relationship with Europe as a whole, reaching Europe and Asia. And this is a great effort which will have great benefits. And this is a great development which I believe will have great benefits. And we have a unified stance and vision in this regard. What we want for us, we want for the whole Middle East region. What we want for any area, we want it for the Balkan regions. What we want for the Balkan regions, we want for all the different areas all around the world, which is peace and security and stability. And to preserve the stability of these areas and allow collaboration, and for peace to prevail, and economic development and the development of these peoples as their civilizations continue to develop and move forward. This is what we want, for humanity to continue progress and to evolve and become more and more prosperous. All our history shows that the need, we have to remember all these principles throughout our history, and we will continue to work towards this. Thank you very much for your concern. Once again, we are very happy with the US brokered peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia. As my dear friend Hakan said, we are very, very happy to see this positive attitude and this development spirit which has reached an agreement, and under a US brokered peace agreement, we hope that this spirit continues and is shown more in our region and in the Middle East, which is also going through its several conflicts and issues. So we are hoping, surely, and appreciate the role of the United States and positive steps by the US administration in reaching this agreement, and we hope this again is carried forward to the Palestinian issue and all the issues in this region, always having a proactive role by the US administration, as we've seen before, in order to reach Trump's vision of reaching political agreements and not using any military powers as well as the situation in Libya and the Mediterranean and Sudan, also the situation in Syria and Yemen. All these areas are very much in great need to reach stability and security, as there is no military resolution for these countries, and we're hoping to see this positive U.S. attitude in our region. Once again, I'd like to thank the Turkish Foreign Minister.